Welcome to the first episode in this series. We're kicking off our tour of global feasting at home in the French Alps. Hi, I'm Murray from the YSC Cookery School, and in this episode we're going to be taking a look at some traditional dishes from the French Alps and some of the ingredients that are specific to the region. If you haven't already, you can check out the main introduction to this series by clicking on the link below. There's also a link in the description to download the free PDF cookbook with all the dishes that we'll be cooking in this series, or if you prefer a printed version, then the link is there as well. The French Alps are the largest mountain chain in Europe, extending for more than 1,000 kilometers with a surface area of 35,000 square kilometers in France itself. The range boasts some of the highest peaks in Europe, with the most symbolic being the Mont Blanc, which stands at an altitude of just over 4,800 meters. While the Southern Alps have many peaks that reach 4,000 meters, they then stretch off towards the Mediterranean Sea. There are three departments in the Northern Alps: Haute-Savoie, Savoie, where we're based, and Isère. And since the 1920s, these regions have been home to France's famous ski resorts. Now, the images that spring to mind when we think about traditional restaurants and the food for a skiing holiday in the Alps tend to be of excessive cheese, fondue, raclettes, gratins, plenty of charcuterie and salad. Now, as with the roots of most cuisine from around the world, there's usually a historical geographical reason why regional food develops in the way that it does. In this case, the Alps are scattered with lots of small farming villages that would traditionally have had to deal with a long, cold, isolated winter. So producing food in the summer months that keeps well and sustains the community in place of fresh produce would have been the only way to survive the winter. So into things like cheese, cured meats such as prosciutto, saucisson, lardons, vegetables that grow in abundance in the summer and store well in the winter such as potatoes, onions, garlic, pumpkins. Summer fruits would have been preserved as compotes, and the dry stony ground makes an ideal environment for growing grapes for wine, an absolute staple for an isolated winter in the mountains. The most familiar mountain dish would have to be the cheese fondue, served with stale bread, cured meats, cornichons, the little green pickles. Traditionally, a basic cheese fondue is served in a clay saucepan heated over a small burner with a mix of 3 or 4 local cheeses, some wine and maybe a little kirsch. The other style of fondue is known as a fondue chinois, where the cheese is replaced by chicken stock or beef stock, or a fondue bourguignon, which uses hot frying oil. Thin slices of meat are then held in the liquid or the oil with a fork until they are cooked. If you're interested in trying a fondue at home, I highly recommend a clip from one of the best YouTube channels that we've come across called Binging with Babiche. Although he isn't from the Savoie, he's very, very thorough in his account of the humble cheese fondue. I'll put the link up at the end of this video. Now, a raclette is another way to eat your way through an absolute ton of cheese in the Alps. It's probably the most gluttonous way imaginable. The name raclette refers to both the cheese and the cheese wheel itself and the way it's served. You have a large wheel of raclette cheese that's cut in half, and it's held underneath a portable grill. It slides in and out. Usually that's on the table. Once the top layer is melted, you simply scrape it off onto a plate, scoff it and wait for the next oversized paddle full of cheese to be melted. And again, it's eaten with pickles and cured meats and boiled potatoes and salad. We've linked to a great short clip of raclette being served by the Raclette brothers. Now, our favorite and this week's recipe entry into the Keep Heading East cookbook is the mighty Tartiflette. It's a gratin similar to a dauphin-mashed potato, but with the addition of pancetta lardons, caramelized onions, and a grilled wheel of Reblochon cheese on the top. Now, Reblochon cheese is a smallish wheel of cheese, similar to the size of a brie, but much richer and creamier in flavour, and much stronger in flavour. And that's the key ingredient. The origins of Reblochon date back to the 13th century in the alpine pastures of the Thon Valley, where it all started with tax avoidance, actually. At the time, the landowners exercised the right to tax the farmers who farmed their mountain pastures, and this usage fee was collected once a year, and based on the number of pots of milk produced by a herd in one day. So obviously on the day that the quantities were checked each year, the farmers would do a partial milking in order to pay a bit less tax. And then as soon as the inspector left, they did their second milking, and there usually wasn't a lot left, but the milk that did come out was great quality, really rich and heavy in cream, so ideal for making cheese. So Reblochon really owes its name to this kind of minor deception, locally called la rebauche in the local dialect, with reblocher in French meaning to pinch the cow's udder the second time. Anyway, if you want to have a go at making tartiflette yourself, it's quite straightforward, but you do have to track down some Reblochon. It's really is the key ingredient. It's not an overly common cheese, with only 48,000 cows producing the milk for Reblochon, but a reasonable cheese shop or a Waitrose should stock it. And if they don't, ask them to get it in for you, because it really is the key to making a great tartiflette. So that's it for this stop on our Keep Heading East tour of global cuisine. I hope you've enjoyed it. Links are on screen now for the videos I mentioned earlier if you'd like to see a little more from the region. And remember, for our subscribers, there's a fantastic cookbook to accompany this series. So if you haven't already, hit subscribe and grab yourself a free PDF copy of our cookbook, or if you prefer a hard copy, the links are there as well. Thanks for watching. See you soon.